For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Motshabi Hoaeane. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner discusses the necessity for an ethical component in South African politics. Thank you for your time, Professor. You say that science has made it possible to meet basic needs. However, whether this is done has become an ethical question. Can you elaborate on this?
You see, when we say something is right or wrong, we need to also ask what is possible. In human history, it was not possible to combat some diseases in the past because science had not developed sufficiently for us to prevent outbreaks or to treat outbreaks of certain diseases. That's why you have plagues in history, things like this. Inoculations had not been developed, and a range of other things. It was also not possible within the resources that people had in previous centuries to provide shelter to people, to provide water and food to all human beings. So that what happens is it is only when the resources are available in the world that we can say that there's an ethical question involved in who gets human shelter, who gets health care, and who does not. Because in the world today, we know a lot of people have not got basic needs met. And many others have not only got basic needs met, but they have got far more than they need to meet those basic necessities. If you look at the statistics, they're very well-known statistics for wealth redistribution in the world. The smallest 5% or 1% of the wealthiest people in the world earn far more than something like 50% of the world on their own. And some of these people own more than the GDP of about 50 to 100 countries in the world. So the resources are unequally distributed, and this bears a relationship to who gets what. And South Africa is a country which is not amongst the wealthiest countries in the world, but there's no doubt that inequality has got something to do with whether some people are able to live a decent life. Now, in the case of strikes, media and business and others are very quick to say that by striking, the workers are being irresponsible, and that they are going to lead to a downgrade of our rating, and they're going to drive the country into recession. But studies have shown regarding the Platinum Belt that the companies there were actually taxed at a lower rate than other companies on the JSE, so that in fact their level of profits were higher, much higher than was the average profit-taking amongst other industries. Consequently, we need to be asking ourselves, is there not a maldistribution of wealth which, if it were remedied, could help address, through taxation and other means, could address some of the needs in this country? But of course, we've got other reasons why wealth is not distributed, why needs are not met. We've got corruption, we've got patronage, a range of these things which we've referred to in the past, which must be addressed at the level of governance at the state level. And I think this needs to be attended to. Obviously, the state bears the primary responsibility, but doesn't necessarily have the resources on its own.
Now, Professor, you speak of an absence of passion. Why is this relevant to ethics today?
I think that passion is a very important question. because you can understand something very well, but you may not act on it unless you feel something about it. Now, this has got something to do with spirituality, as I understand it. I'm myself a secular spiritual person. If I'm spiritual, I understand spirituality to refer to consciousness of self, but consciousness of other people as well. In other words, awareness of and consciousness and compassion for what the other is experiencing. Now, unless you have that combination, it is unlikely that you will act, or it may well be that while you understand something, you do not feel about it. Now, a lot of academics have written about tragic events that they've recorded from the archives. But when they have seen the masses, what I would call the popular forces in real life, many of them have got scared, and they have found it somewhat threatening, something mob-like about them. Now, on the other hand, many people who were involved in the struggle identified themselves with these people who may have been what are called the unwashed masses, but they understood and felt for their plight and were willing to make sacrifices. And they did make these sacrifices. I think it's important also to understand that you may get involved in political activities, but when you find yourself arrested or some such thing, if it has been mainly an intellectual thing and you're being interrogated, it is harder to withstand the blandishments if you're offered release under some conditions that you betray others, or it's harder to stick by your beliefs when you are suffering if you have not unified your understanding and your psychological preparedness, your emotion, your passion, and your compassion. So I believe also that while passion is important, there must be understanding, because it's no good having passion about something without working out clearly how you are going to meet your goals. You have to tame your passion and direct it towards certain objectives. So there needs to be a combination of appreciation of what is possible and a commitment intellectually and emotionally, passionately, to achieving it.
Thank you so much, Professor. That was Professor Suttner on the process of inspiring a different way of thinking on making ethical decisions in South Africa's democracy.